In a new 48 hours investigation, for the first time, we hear from law enforcement officers who tracked down a killer on the run. Kaitlin Armstrong eluded authorities for 43 days back in 2022 after police issued a warrant for her arrest.
In the world of professional cycling, few stories shine as brightly and fade as tragically as that of Moriah Wilson, known to everyone as MO. At just 25 years old, this Vermont-born athlete was a rising star in the gravel racing scene, winning major titles and turning heads with her talent, determination, and infectious smile. But on the night of May 11, 2022, in a quiet Austin, Texas apartment, Mo's promising life was violently cut short. She was shot multiple times at close range while visiting a friend. The killer? Not a stranger, but a woman consumed by jealousy over a shared romantic interest. This is the brutal story of obsession, stalking, a dramatic international manhunt, and the darker truths that turned a simple love triangle into cold-blooded murder. Tonight on The Brutal Files, we uncover the truth and tragedy of Moriah Wilson. Moriah M.O. Wilson grew up in a close-knit family in Vermont. From a young age, she showed extraordinary athletic talent, excelling in swimming, running, and eventually cycling. By her early 20s, she had transitioned into professional gravel racing, a tough, endurance-heavy discipline that suited her fierce competitive spirit. Friends and teammates described her as kind, humble, and incredibly driven. She wasn't just chasing wins on the bike, she was building a life full of passion, friendship, and adventure. In early 2022, M.O. traveled to Austin, Texas for a major gravel race. Little did she know that this trip would end in unimaginable horror. The man at the center of this tragedy was Colin Strickland, a well-known professional cyclist himself. Colin had been in an on-and-off relationship with Kaitlin Armstrong, a 34-year-old yoga instructor and part-time triathlete living in Austin. Their relationship was turbulent, marked by breakups and reconciliations. During one of those breaks, Colin briefly dated Moriah Wilson. It was nothing serious, just a short fling between two athletes who shared the same competitive world. But for Kaitlin Armstrong, even that brief connection was unbearable. Kaitlin had a history of intense jealousy. According to testimony and evidence presented later, she became obsessed with Moriah after learning about the fling. She allegedly began stalking M.O. on social media, monitoring her movements, and growing increasingly resentful. On the evening of May 11, 2022, M.O. had dinner with Colin and another friend. Around 8:30 p.m., Colin dropped M.O. off at her friend Kaitlin Cash's apartment in East Austin. M.O. went inside to shower and relax after a long day of training. What happened next was captured in chilling detail through surveillance footage and forensic evidence. A dark-colored SUV, later traced to Kaitlin Armstrong, was seen circling the block multiple times. Shortly after 9 p.m., a woman matching Kaitlin's description entered the apartment building. She confronted M.O. in the bathroom area and fired several shots from a 9mm handgun. M.O. was hit multiple times, including a fatal wound to the head. She collapsed on the floor, dying almost instantly. The shooter fled the scene calmly, leaving behind a trail of evidence that would eventually lead straight back to her. When police arrived, they quickly connected the dots. The vehicle belonged to Kaitlin. GPS data from her phone and bike computer placed her near the scene. But Kaitlin had already vanished. What followed was one of the most dramatic manhunts in recent true crime history. For 43 days, Kaitlin Armstrong evaded capture, using evasion tactics that shocked investigators. She fled to Costa Rica using her sister's passport. Once there, she underwent plastic surgery to alter her appearance, changing her nose and other features in a desperate attempt to hide her identity. She dyed her hair, adopted a new look, and tried to blend into the expat community on a remote beach town. U.S. Marshals, working with international authorities, eventually tracked her down. On June 29, 2022, they arrested Kaitlin in Costa Rica. The woman who once taught yoga and competed in triathlons now looked drastically different, but fingerprints and other evidence confirmed her identity. She was extradited back to Texas, where she pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder. The trial began in October 2023 in Austin. Prosecutors laid out a compelling case built on surveillance video, cell phone records, GPS data from cycling apps, and witness testimony. They painted a picture of premeditated murder driven by obsessive jealousy. Kaitlin had allegedly planned the attack, waited for the right moment, and executed it with cold precision. The defense tried to raise doubts, but the evidence was overwhelming. On November 16, 2023, after less than 2 hours of deliberation, the jury found Kaitlin Armstrong guilty of first-degree murder. The next day, during sentencing, the courtroom heard emotional statements from Moriah's family. Her mother, Karen Wilson, spoke powerfully about the pain of losing her daughter. Kaitlin was sentenced to 90 years in prison. She will be eligible for parole only after serving around 30 years, meaning not until the early 2050s. In January 2026, a Texas appeals court upheld both her conviction and sentence, rejecting claims of trial errors. As of April 2026, Kaitlin Armstrong remains incarcerated at the Dr. Lane Murray Unit, a women's prison in Gatesville, Texas. Her projected release date stretches far into the next century. Meanwhile, Moriah Wilson's family has worked to turn their tragedy into something meaningful. In 2024, they won a $15 million wrongful death civil judgment against Kaitlin. They also created a foundation in Mo's honor to support young athletes and cycling causes. In early 2026, a Netflix documentary titled The Truth and Tragedy of Moriah Wilson brought renewed attention to the case, focusing not just on the murder but on celebrating Mo's vibrant life and legacy. This case reveals some of the darkest truths about human jealousy. What began as a casual romantic connection between two athletes spiraled into deadly obsession. Kaitlin Armstrong didn't just kill a romantic rival, she destroyed a young woman with an entire future ahead of her. Mo Wilson was more than a victim. She was a talented cyclist, a loyal friend, and a beloved daughter whose light touched everyone around her. The stalking, the calculated shooting, and the elaborate evasion tactics across international borders show how far unchecked jealousy can push someone. Even years later, in 2026, the story continues to haunt the cycling community and true crime followers alike. It serves as a stark reminder that danger can sometimes come from the most unexpected places, not from strangers in the dark, but from someone consumed by envy over something as fleeting as a brief romance. The brutal truth is this: Moriah Wilson's life was taken in a moment of pure rage and insecurity, but her legacy of passion and perseverance lives on through her family, friends, and the sport she loved. Kaitlin Armstrong traded her freedom, her reputation, and decades of her life for a crime that solved nothing and destroyed everything. If this story moved you, or if you want us to dive deeper into the manhunt details, the trial evidence, or similar cases of deadly jealousy, let us know in the comments. What shocked you most? The plastic surgery disguised, the speed of the jury's verdict, or the way Mo's family chose hope after heartbreak? Share your thoughts below, but please keep it respectful for the victims and their loved ones. Thank you for watching The Brutal Files, where we explore real crimes and the darker truths they hide. If you're new here, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive. Which case should we cover next? Drop your suggestions. Until then, stay safe, because sometimes the greatest threats hide behind familiar faces.